The stew was nearly done. I stirred it slowly, letting the wooden spoon glide through thick broth as the scent of onions and thyme filled the air. Wade moved behind me, opening the pantry, then the fridge, then doubling back. Too many steps for someone who wasn't looking for anything. I didn't turn, just watched his reflection in the microwave door. His eyes flicked toward the table, toward my purse. He reached for a paper towel, but his hand paused too long near the bag. He glanced at me, then away, then smiled like we were in on some unspoken joke. The pot bubbled. I said nothing. 15 minutes later, while the cornbread cooled and he went back outside, I checked the purse. Tucked inside the side pocket was something soft, velvet, a pouch I didn't recognize. I sat down at the table, pulled the drawstring, and let the contents spill into my palm. Earrings, heavy, sharp-cut stones set in silver. Too large to be anything casual, too real to be costume. I hadn't seen them before, certainly never owned anything like them. They weren't a gift, they were a plant. I didn't say a word. I walked upstairs past the framed photographs Wade never bothered to dust. His door was cracked open. The room still smelled faintly of Kendra's hairspray and barbecue smoke. I opened the middle drawer of his dresser. Socks, balled in sloppy pairs, and placed the pouch between them like it belonged. Then I closed the drawer, walked back down, and finished setting the table. Dinner was strange. Kendra laughed too loud. Wade complimented the stew twice. I nodded, refilled his glass, waited. When the doorbell rang, I knew exactly what time it was. I wiped my hands on the dish towel and opened the door. 3 officers stood outside, one holding a notepad. "Mrs. Ward?" the woman in the center asked. I stepped aside, let them in, and pointed toward the living room. Wade looked up from his bowl with a flicker of surprise, too practiced to be real. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down slowly. 2 years ago, when Harold died, the house got too quiet too fast. Wade had just lost his job. Kendra was finishing school, and I told them they could stay a little while. I meant months, maybe 6. I wanted noise back in the hallway. Coffee cups clinking again. Something other than silence and bills. They moved in within a week. Brought half a U-Haul, 2 cats, and no plan. At first I made space, gave them the larger bedroom, said it didn't matter. I shifted my sewing machine into the corner of the laundry room, paid the grocery bill just this once, until Wade found new work. Kendra said she'd help with meals once her exams were done. The months rolled on. The promises didn't. Now it was year 2. I paid for most of the groceries, I cleaned the bathroom I no longer had full access to, and every time they thanked me, it was with the air of someone forced to be polite to staff. That night, the night before the police visit, Wade knocked on my door with a folded utility bill in hand. "Mom," he said, like he was gearing up for another performance. "We had a mix-up with the rent payment again. It overdrafted. Can you spot us this once?" I stared at the paper. I didn't reach for it. Kendra was in the kitchen, leaned against the counter, scrolling on her phone, laughing quietly at something I couldn't hear. "No," I said. "Just that. Nothing else." Wade blinked. "It's just temporary, Mom, I swear." I said no. He exhaled sharply, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Fine," he muttered, tossing the paper on the table. Kendra didn't even glance up. He walked away like a guest who'd just been denied room service. I picked up the bill and slid it beneath the fruit bowl. My name was still on the account, still on the mortgage, still on the deed, but none of it felt like mine anymore. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat in the chair where Harold used to read the paper, waiting for the next mask Wade would try to wear. The next morning, Wade came down whistling. He hadn't whistled since before Harold's funeral. He poured himself orange juice, kissed Kendra on the cheek, and announced it like he'd just won the lottery. "Good news, Mom," he said. "Techline Systems offered me the job, starting Monday." I looked up from my coffee, still black and cooling. "The one from the interview yesterday?" He grinned too wide. "Yep, senior technician. Full benefits. They said they were impressed." Kendra clapped her hands together a beat too late. "See? I told you it would work out." She was already dressed, makeup flawless, perfume sharp. Her voice was bright in that way people get when they're forcing cheer into a heavy room. "That's wonderful," I said, stirring my coffee, though I'd already forgotten to add sugar. "What will you be doing exactly?" "Oh, IT things," Wade replied, waving a hand. "Servers, systems, whatever they need. I'll handle it." He wouldn't meet my eyes. His knee bounced under the table. Kendra started clearing dishes that didn't need clearing. The clatter filled the silence. "We should celebrate tonight," she said quickly. "A nice dinner. Wade deserves it." He looked at her just long enough for her to nod. Then he smiled at me again. "You'll come, right, Mom? We'll get steaks. My treat, first paycheck and all." I smiled back because I knew the line I was supposed to deliver. "Of course, honey." When they left, the house settled into the kind of quiet that has weight. The coffee in my cup had gone cold, untouched. Later, after dinner plans fell through, I checked online out of habit. There was no tech line systems in town, no listings, no address, no company by that name within 50 miles. I sat back, the cursor blinking at me like it was asking the question I'd been avoiding all morning. I shut the laptop, turned off the light, and stood at the kitchen window, watching the faint movement of Wade's reflection near my purse again. "Wade insisted we have a barbecue. To celebrate," he said, tossing a pack of hamburger buns into the cart like it was nothing. He even bought the charcoal himself. That alone should have tipped me off. Something wasn't right. By 5 o'clock, he was setting up on the patio. Kendra arranged condiments on a tray like she was hosting a 4th of July picnic. I brought out the plates, the napkins, the little things that make a house feel prepared even when the people inside aren't. While the grill heated, I stood at the sink, rinsing lettuce. He passed through the dining room and paused by the table. My purse sat where it always did, hung neatly on the chair. His hand hovered. Then, quick and precise, he unzipped the side pocket and slipped something inside. Same velvet pouch, same quick glance over the shoulder, same stupid confidence. I waited until he went back outside. Then I dried my hands, walked into the room like I was checking on the side dishes, and retrieved it. He hadn't even changed the wrapping. Upstairs, I opened his drawer. Second one down. The socks were still in balled-up pairs, disorganized and thinning. I placed the pouch between 2 layers and closed it with care, making sure everything looked untouched. Back in the kitchen, I set the mustard next to the relish and laid out the tongs like nothing had happened. Dinner smelled like summer, and the air carried that smoky sweetness people mistake for peace. Wade handed me a plate like nothing was wrong, like we were just a family again. I took it, smiled, and sat down across from him. He was waiting for a story to unfold. I decided to let him tell it. The knock came just after the burgers hit the plate. 3 firm raps on the door, enough to make the ketchup bottle tremble on the table. Wade froze for half a second, then wiped his hands on a napkin like it was nothing. Kendra blinked, looked at him, then at the door, then back again. I opened it. 3 officers stood there, 1 woman in front, 2 men behind, all with the same steady gaze. The woman spoke first. "We received a tip about stolen jewelry at this address. May we come in?" I stepped aside. Wade cleared his throat. "I think I know what this is about," he said, loud enough for the neighbors if they'd been listening. "Earlier today, I saw something in my mom's purse. It looked like earrings. The ones missing from Kendra's work." Kendra gasped, too sharp, like she hadn't practiced it enough. Her hand went to her chest. "Wade, are you sure?" she asked, voice trembling just enough to pass. "Yes," he said. I didn't want to believe it either, but I saw them. The officer turned to me. "Mrs. Ward, may we look in your handbag?" I didn't flinch. "Of course," I said, walking into the kitchen. Wade didn't follow. He didn't need to. He thought the script was playing out exactly how he'd written it. I picked up the bag, turned, and handed it over without a word. The officer opened each pocket carefully, one by one. Nothing. "Are you sure this is the same bag?" she asked Wade. His mouth opened. It should be." I looked at her and nodded toward the stairs. "You might want to check his second drawer. Middle one." Silence cracked through the room. She gestured to her partner. He returned a minute later, velvet pouch in hand. He opened it. The earrings sparkled in the light, quiet and damning. "They're mine," Kendra whispered. Wade's face drained of color. Someone must have moved." The officer held up a hand. "We'll need you both to answer a few more questions." Wade's fingers curled tight around his paper plate. I just sat back and watched. The officers took them into separate rooms, one upstairs, one in the kitchen. The air between the walls felt tight, like the house itself was holding its breath. I sat in the den, hands folded on my knees, and tried to listen only to the quiet. It didn't stay quiet long. A chair scraped. A door shut harder than it needed to. Kendra's voice wavered through the hall, answering questions she didn't have the skill to dodge. I stared at the framed photograph on the mantel. Harold holding baby Wade at the county fair, both of them covered in powdered sugar. It used to make me smile. Tonight, it didn't. Every memory was an item on a long ledger I'd never balanced. The anniversary bracelet I sold for his tuition. The trip to Oregon we canceled so I could fix his car after he wrecked it. The loans I co-signed, the ones that ruined my credit while he told people I liked helping. Every time I said yes, he learned how easy I was to ask. Down the hall, an officer came in quietly and handed me a clipboard. "We'll need a statement, Mrs. Ward, and we've confirmed these earrings match a theft report from the store where your daughter-in-law works." I signed the page. My pen didn't shake. "Then you already know what this was," I said. He nodded, not unkindly. "Looks that way." They spoke in low tones for another half hour before the cars pulled away, red and blue lights fading against the siding. The house fell into a deeper kind of silence, the kind that stays even after sound returns. Wade and Kendra didn't come back inside. I didn't ask where they went. I sat in the den with the lamp still on, the stack of old bills beside me, and finally saw what they'd been planning all along. If I'd been arrested, the house would have gone straight to them. I turned off the light and went upstairs to start packing. I started with the linen closet, took the blue towels Harold liked, left the ones Kendra bought with my card. I folded everything into 2 neat stacks, what I was keeping and what I would no longer touch. The bedroom came next. I opened drawers slowly, like they might snap back. My nightstand held more dust than memories now. I took the photo of Harold and me in Colorado, left the one of all 3 of us at Wade's graduation. I wasn't in the mood to honor stages. I packed only 1 suitcase, not because I didn't need more, but because I didn't want more. The house was mine, still legally in my name, but every hallway echoed with excuses. Every kitchen drawer remembered a slammed door or faked apology. The ceilings knew how much of myself I'd scraped off to keep this roof over their heads. I paused by Wade's room. The door was half open, like always. I stepped inside. Second drawer down. I knew which one. The socks had been rearranged, but not well. I pushed past the pairs and found a folded piece of paper tucked underneath. I unfolded it. A printed map. Highlighted route to a pawn shop 2 towns over. The name circled in red. A note scribbled in Wade's handwriting. Appraises high-end pieces, no questions asked. He hadn't just planted the earrings, he had a backup plan. I put the paper back exactly how I found it and closed the drawer gently. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat with my planner. The next morning I called the lawyer, made an appointment, asked about updating my will, revising property access, filing restrictions. I didn't mention the earrings, didn't need to. 2 days later, the paperwork was signed. Nothing goes to Wade now. Not the house, not the car, not the little savings Harold left behind in the drawer beneath the tool bench. I packed the final zip of the suitcase, closed the closet behind me, and walked out the door just as the sun cracked over the hedges. I made pot roast just like Harold used to request on Sundays. I seasoned it the same, laid the carrots in rows, mashed the potatoes smooth. Not for comfort, not for peace, just to mark the ending. Wade came in late, all smiles and stretched charm. "Smells like old times, huh, Mom?" Kendra trailed behind, eyes rimmed with liner. She hadn't blended well. She sat before saying hello, fingernails tapping on her phone screen, until Wade gave her a look. I served without speaking. 3 plates. Nothing fancy. Wade talked through the silence, telling stories that belonged to a version of him that didn't exist anymore. A college prank, a neighbor's dog, the kind of small memories people grab when they're afraid of the room growing too still. Kendra barely ate. She poked at the carrots like they'd offended her. Wade asked for seconds, but didn't finish his first plate. I sipped my water, folded my napkin, and waited. The knock came just as I laid my fork down. Firm, not urgent. Certain. I didn't rise. Wade hesitated, then got up, shoulders squared like he was answering a delivery. He opened the door halfway before the voice met him. "Wade Ward," a man stepped forward. A face I'd never seen in person, but recognized from the news clip online, the owner of the jewelry store. Behind him, an officer in uniform, hand resting near her belt. "That's him," the man said, pointing without hesitation. "He's the one from the footage." Wade's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The officer stepped in, calm and professional. Kendra froze mid-bite, her fork hovering in the air. No one looked at me. I didn't move. The pot roast cooled on the table. The air changed like the house had taken a deeper breath than any of us could manage. "Mr. Ward," the officer said, "you'll need to come with us." Wade didn't resist. His face shifted through disbelief, outrage, then something almost like relief. The door closed behind them, quietly, final. I stood and cleared the dishes. The house echoed in ways it never had before. Without the furniture, the sound of footsteps stretched too far. The walls looked wider, blank and bare where family photos once hung. I'd taken down the frames, boxed what mattered, and left behind the nail holes. Small reminders that something had once been there. The realtor walked beside me, clipboard in hand, her heels making brisk, businesslike taps on the hardwood. "It'll go fast," she said, smiling. "Good bones, big yard, that nursery window, perfect light." I nodded. I didn't mention what the room had once been. Wade's as a child, then Kendra's makeup studio, then a storage room for boxes of things I stopped needing. By noon, everything was signed. The new couple waited in the driveway, fresh-faced, nervous, the kind of people who still whispered to each other like everything ahead was possible. The woman held a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. The man adjusted the car seat 3 times before stepping forward. I handed her the keys. "This door sticks in the winter," I said, "and the back left burner on the stove takes longer to heat." She smiled, grateful. "Thank you." They crossed the threshold together. I stood there a moment longer, one hand resting on the porch rail. It was just a house now. Not mine, not Wade's, just walls and roof and space waiting to be filled by someone who might treat it better. My lawyer had called that morning to confirm the final paperwork. The will was filed. Everything, my accounts, my pension, what little was left from Harold's savings, was redirected. Wade's name had been removed entirely, not out of anger, just clarity. I slid into the front seat of my car, a box of folded linens in the back. The engine turned over without hesitation. The rearview mirror caught one last glimpse of the house as I pulled away. Some places aren't meant to be returned to. At the next light, I turned right toward a rental just outside town, where the sun reached the windows first thing each morning. The apartment isn't big, but it's mine. 1 bedroom, slanted ceiling, and windows that rattle when the freight trains pass in the distance. The stairs creak every time I come and go, and the smell of fresh-cut stems from the shop below rises through the floorboards before sunrise. In the mornings, I make my own coffee, stronger than they liked it at the old house, and sit near the window with a notepad. No one interrupts. No one needs anything. It's quiet in a way that doesn't feel empty. Twice a week, I walk down to the library. I teach a workshop for women over 50, basic computer skills, email setups, job searches. Sometimes we just talk. Not all of them have family nearby. Some gave everything to children who don't call anymore. They smile when they leave. That's something. My purse rests on the hook by the door, the same one Wade once used. I replaced the lining, scrubbed the stitching. Now it carries my own things, my cards, my name on everything inside. There's no room for anyone else's plans. Last Friday, I walked past a little boutique on Main and saw a pair of earrings in the window. Small gold hoops. No stones, no velvet pouch, no secrets. I stepped inside, paid in cash, and wore them out of the store. No one questioned it. No one needed to. I stood in front of the mirror that night, brushed my hair back, and fastened the clasps. They weren't expensive, just honest. The apartment smells faintly of eucalyptus and freesia. The shop owner, Dana, leaves stems for me at the top of the stairs some mornings. I keep a small vase by the sink. I don't talk about Wade, not because I'm ashamed, just because he no longer belongs in the story I'm living. The last time I heard from him was a letter I didn't finish reading. There are dishes in the sink and a loaf cooling on the counter. I wipe my hands on a towel, turn off the light, and close the door behind me. The street outside hums with small life. A passing car, a bicycle bell, the sound of laughter from somewhere down the block. I walk to the corner cafe where the barista knows my order without asking. "Morning, Grace," she says, smiling. "The usual?" "Yes, thank you." I take my seat by the window, the one that catches the light just right at this hour, and open the book I've been reading for weeks now. It's a slow story, gentle, without villains. That's what I like about it. Outside, the florist from downstairs arranges a new display of chrysanthemums. Their scent drifts in whenever the cafe door opens. I sip my coffee, still too hot, and think about how endings don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they just slip in quietly. A packed suitcase, a signature on a page, a house key changing hands. And sometimes they make room for beginnings. When I return home, sunlight pools on the floorboards. I hang my coat, set down the groceries, and hum without realizing it. The sound surprises me. It's been years since I've caught myself humming. I water the plant on the windowsill. the one that keeps trying to bloom even though it shouldn't in this season, and smile. I think Harold would have liked this place. He would have liked the quiet, the mornings, the way the light moves through the curtains. There's peace here, but it's not the kind that hides things. It's the kind that settles in when everything false has burned away. The kind you earn. When I go to bed, the night sounds are different. Trains in the distance, the soft hum of the florist's refrigerator downstairs. I leave the window cracked open a little, just enough to feel the air shift. On the dresser, my earrings glint faintly in the lamplight. Honest gold. I close my eyes and let the quiet hold me. This time it feels like home.